Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pixel Perfect Podcast. I'm Paige,
I am Erin.
and we are continuing on our zombie shenanigans for the month because if you weren't sick of COVID, then you're definitely going to be sick of zombies.
Yeah, I don't know why we picked this, but
I
it's
don't
been a
know.
good month, so it's
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, absolutely. And we promise we're not going to rag so hard like we did last episode because we picked a movie we actually liked.
Yes. No, and it was funny because I kind of already knew I didn't like Double Tap, but I didn't know I didn't like the original Zombieland, so it was a bit of a surprise that it got so negative.
Yeah, we were like, oops, we hate everything.
Yep. So, sorry.
But not today. Today we'll make
Not
up for
today.
it. We'll have good
Yes.
vibes.
And we will do our best to not completely butcher the names the entire goddamn time.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
yeah.
I I I wrote them all down and we're gonna do our best and we apologize in advance for any butchering of names.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I feel like South
oh, we're
Korean
doing
names.
Train to Busan,
Yeah. I feel like
by
South
the
Korean
way.
names are a little, at least like, I don't know. They're a little bit more straightforward. Like, I don't know what the word is. Them like sounding like what they are written out
Phonetic.
as. Yeah. They're more phonetic than some other
Yeah.
cultures. So
Yeah. So, but we'll see. But yes, we're doing Train to Busan, which we haven't actually
Train
said
to
yet.
Busan, which is an epic zombie movie.
Yes. It's a very, very good zombie movie. And apparently has a sequel that came out last year that we did not know about until it was too late to actually watch it for this episode, which tells you A, how much US marketing and
Mm.
promotion it got, and B, 2020 was a hellscape for movies anyway,
Oh yeah.
so I'm not even sure it really mattered. Though interesting fun fact, it did make like
It did well, right?
actually no. It
I mean,
not
not compared
really.
to the first one, but compared to its
Not
budget.
compared to the first one. Um it had a $16 million budget and it made 35 million worldwide. So it only
Did it?
made
I
twice
thought
as
I had
budget.
40. Where did I get 40? I don't know. I'm
I
making
don't
shit
know.
up. I think it's coming to Netflix soon too, so we can always maybe check it
It's
out
also
when
on
we're talking.
Amazon for only 99 cents, and I already purchased it because I watched the trailer today and it looked really
Oh,
badass.
that's smart. I think I'm definitely going to do that because I also found out today that there's an animated prequel that I'm definitely going to watch.
I did not know that at all.
Yeah, it's all about how like the outbreak first starts and like
Oh,
just like a
kick
bunch of
ass.
chaos, and it's like an hour and a half long animated feature prequel movie. It's called Soul Station.
Okay.
I believe it's also on Amazon.
Okay. I just wrote that down because I'm gonna watch it.
Zombie movies
Um,
galore.
yep. So, but yes, this is a South Korean film, directed by Sang Ho Yeon.
It's
That's
Yun,
like
I
a
believe. I think it's
Yun.
Song Ho
Okay.
Yun.
Okay. She's gonna be better at
That's
this
what
than
the
I am.
YouTube video I watched said anyways.
Okay. Was it the YouTube video I sent you?
No, it was a different one because that guy also
Okay.
was like, I apologize for
Yeah,
mispronouncing
I was
things. And I
just
was
gonna
like,
say
I'm
because
not going to trust him.
yeah, no. Uh, okay. So yeah, it came out 2016.
Which I didn't know. When did we watch it originally?
2019.
Yeah, and I was under the impression it was only like a year old at that point.
Yeah, it's I feel like it reads like a 2018-19 movie
It kind of does.
rather than 2016.
Yeah.
The same way like Zombieland we talked about is such a 2009 movie, this movie reads like a later movie.
Yeah, it kind of does.
And I think it's because of the coloring and the themes and the way it's its filmmaking,
Hmm.
like the way it utilizes film language
Yeah.
is very ahead of its time.
I can agree with that for sure. And plus, like South Korea and countries like that, like Japan and stuff, are ahead of us technologically too. So like it are like compared to what we see, it's like, oh yeah, that looks like current.
Yeah, it's actually one of the most depressing things is that the US doesn't really take in foreign movies very well.
Mm,
Um, like Parasite, I think was the most successful movie that we've
yeah, that was like
uh,
groundbreaking for it to even get the attention it got.
in the US anyway.
Yes, in the U.S.
Um, But yeah, so it's US kind of just isn't very good at non-US movies because we believe that we make the best shit
Mhm.
and no one can possibly touch us.
That is so
And
true.
this is true across the
And
board
we
for
are
literally
wrong.
everything. Yeah.
We're very wrong.
I mean, we make some good movies, but we also make some crap movies, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's just movies across the board, but,
Yep.
there's good and there's bad movies, but still, we tend to believe that our shit smells better.
For sure. Like I that review video you sent me, he was comparing it to World War Z a lot because that was like our last big zombie
Yeah.
blockbuster. And for me, I've seen that movie. I could not tell you what happens in it. I remember nothing. I remember being bored to death watching it. I have no
Yeah.
recollection of my experience in that movie, but like Train to Busan stuck with me and I remember thinking, wow, this is like a really good zombie movie.
Well, Train to Busan has an emotional core that,
Yeah.
to my understanding, World War Z does not have, and it's interesting, there's a video by Lindsay Ellis about, the Transformer movies and why you don't remember what happens in the Transformer movies, and it's because of the filmmaking, so if you have a bunch of fast cuts, the audience literally can't absorb what you're trying to tell them, so you don't remember the movie.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I literally one of the classes I took um had we watched like a TED talk about that concept and that's why they tell you not to let kids under 3 have like too much screen time or like any screen time because the way media is with all the fast cuts, it like f's their brain up to be taking that in and can actually like increase the rate of ADD and ADHD. So like if you watch like an
Yeah,
educational child program like Mr. Rogers or something, it's usually really long cuts that like their brains can handle.
right,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, like, even adults, eh, filmmaking is basically the way it's kind of you there's a lot of fast cuts and a lot of, like, quick shots. They are necessary, especially in action films, because they up the pacing, right? So if a scene is fast, you shoot it fast. You do a lot of quick cuts in order to get across that momentum.
Right.
Um, but the thing about a lot of action films that are coming out nowadays, and Lindsay Ellis's argument is that this is extremely prevalent in Michael Bay movies, is that there's so many fast cuts that you can't process fully what's coming in, and it also makes it difficult to process what's important and what's not.
Yeah.
So if you have constant fast cuts, your brain literally can't figure out what's important and what you're supposed to remember.
Yeah.
So you don't remember anything.
That makes so much sense.
Fun facts.
That's so crazy. That like gives me like a whole new like view of like the next time I'm watching something, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna be able to figure out whether or not this sticks with me based on some editing
Yeah.
here.
And the thing about Train to Busan, is it Busan or
I I've just been
I
saying
thought so.
Busan.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna go with that. Um, is that it's willing to slow down and do long takes and do close-ups and do like effective close-ups of like acting,
Yeah.
it's willing to give you the fast paced and then slow down and give you the more emotional moments
Right.
and give weight to certain things.
Right. Which I think
I
is
itch my ear.
um I think it that also like I feel like with action movies people are like afraid of slowing down the action, but I feel like Train to Busan even with taking the liberty to like slow things down and have the emotional moments, I think just makes it pack more of a punch overall.
Yeah.
Like especially cuz this movie's brutal. Like two
Mhm.
of the what 8 or so characters you're following along with or 10 or however many there are, like only 2 survive.
Right. And the thing is it's still a fast-paced movie.
Yeah.
It has its slow down moments, but in general the movie is still fast-paced.
Yep.
So it just it's a very like if you're a film student, you should watch this movie. It's very effective when it comes to film language and what it's trying to show you.
Mhm.
It's a very well-made movie. Uh, but
Yeah, I definitely agree
yes,
with that. I think this actually might be my favorite zombie movie.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like Shaun of the Dead's up there, but I think I'd
Yeah.
prefer Train to Busan for sure, just because it's I
I
think more serious.
yeah, I just don't think I could watch it too frequently. 'cause
Yeah, it is a lot.
it's so brutal. It's just so
It's
much.
just
Like,
carnage.
everybody dies, there's tons of carnage and blood, like, it's very, very
Eh,
depressing. Like, it's interesting. It's a movie that I feel like, and this is something that I think that we talked about with World War Z, is that zombie movies are uniquely designed to show the best and worst of humanity.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, 'cause you have people doing, like, self-sacrifice through the film, and you have people, like, defending others and sticking their neck out to save others, but at the same time, you have people, like, who are just god awful
Like, terrible
people,
people, yeah.
just terrible people, or people who get overwhelmed by fear and allow themselves to be, uh, influenced by the terrible people,
Yep.
or terrible person, really. Um, so I just feel like this movie does that the most effectively,
Yeah, for sure.
of showing the best and worst of humanity.
As you were saying that, I was, like, thinking back to Zombieland, and I'm like, I don't even think they did that. I don't even think they did touch
No.
on what
Mm-mm.
like, I'm like, is it even a zombie movie, or is it just a movie with
Well,
zombies in it?"
it's a Zombieland is more of a parody of the genre than an actual
That's fair.
straightforward movie of the genre.
Yeah.
Um, it's very clearly trying to mess with the genre rather than actually be a full-fledged member of it.
Yeah. And it
Whereas Train to Busan is like, "I'm gonna lead the way.
for sure.
Let's go."
For sure. It's yeah, it's definitely it's a fantastic movie. I enjoy it. I kind of wish I'd looked up reviews from people who maybe didn't enjoy it because I wonder if like the cultural context gets to people because of like there's like this such an emphasis on community and taking care of the group versus the individual, and Americans are like huge individualists. So I'm like I wonder if people don't digest this movie well, and I'd be curious to see how that.
Yeah. I think that there's also a message that Americans don't take in very well. Cause so, like, there's that quote that I can't remember exactly about how Americans in particular view themselves as down on their luck millionaires as
Yeah.
opposed
Oh
to
my
actual
god.
poor people.
That's so accurate.
Um, and so in America, we don't really like to criticize the rich, and this movie very distinctly criticized people who like rich people.
Yep,
Like
for
this
sure.
movie it's not really subtext. It's pretty textual in terms of how it views that. And I'm wondering if that message also would not resonate too well with American audiences,
Yep.
or like the general American audience.
Right.
Um,
I don't know. It's
but
definitely
yeah,
something to
this
reflect on. I feel like
yeah.
you people like more people need to see it.
I mean, yeah, it's okay. So let's looking at the actual numbers of this movie.
Like
So
very low budget.
it had a roughly $9 million budget,
Mm,
which in terms of Movieville is like very, very low. Opening weekend, and the thing about being in the US is that like even like the numbers, which is the dash numbers, which is the best resource I found for getting movie box office and everything.
mhm.
And even they only have the box office information for the US
Oh,
because
really?
we're in the US.
Well, didn't it premiered at the
So,
Cannes Film Festival, so that makes sense, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like I wish that we had like a breakdown kind of like how it did in different sectors, but like
Mm.
we have a opening in the US, we have a US gross, and then we have a worldwide gross. So, um opening weekend in the US it made 284K.
Oh god.
And it only made 2.1 million in the US. But it made 95 million worldwide total gross. So that's
Yeah.
93 million dollars internationally, which is the number that I'm really interested in, is that
Yeah.
international number. Um, but yeah, it didn't I wouldn't say that it did very well in the US.
No, definitely not. I mean, the fact that like I don't even know how long it was on Netflix before like we finally found it and we're like, "Oh, hey, there's this movie that like looks good." And I feel like I've heard like whispers of people saying they liked
Yeah.
it, but you never heard anyone raving about it.
The only person is because I TA'd for an Asian American film class, and I had a professor who specializes in Asian American film, and Train to Busan was like on her list of she was like,
Mhm.
"You need to watch this movie."
Yeah.
Um, So because she saw the up and up of that world, she was like, "Yes, this movie, go." And then I was like, "Okay." Um, but yeah, so it did well for a $9 million budget to make 95 million
Oh, yeah.
worldwide is like
That's pretty
very, very
crazy.
well, which I'm assuming is why it got a $16 million budget for the sequel,
Mhm.
but it only made 35 million worldwide, which to be fair, 2020.
2020.
2020. But also, so and granted Rotten Tomatoes is a hellscape
This is
and isn't
true.
very accurate for a lot of things. But in Rotten Tomatoes, it did significantly less well, the sequel did than
Compared to the first
the
one.
original. Mhm. So,
Interesting.
like, the original was, let me see. I wrote it down somewhere, but now I can't find it. But yeah, it was like in the 70s and 80s for critic for Train to Busan, and then the sequel was only 53% critic and 76%
Oh,
audience.
wow.
Um, so
Interesting.
let me see. Oh, it was even higher. So Train to Busan has a 94% critic rating and 88% audience score. So its sequel did not do nearly as well critically and financially,
No.
which is really interesting because it is directed by the same person,
Right. And it's not
which fascinates me.
it's not a
Did you
direct
watch the
sequel, though.
trailer? No.
No, I totally didn't even, like, think to watch a trailer.
It looks very, very different. It looks very classic action thriller.
I wonder if that's why it
But
didn't do as well.
that's what I'm wondering too, but it also looks super fucking cool. But it's the same director, different co-writer. The director
Mhm.
um co-wrote the script for both movies, but it's a different co-writer
Okay.
on the second movie than on the
Interesting.
first. So and just it's they're very vastly different movies. This cuz like the sequel, which is Train to Busan Presents Peninsula,
Mm.
is about um as far as I can tell, it's 4 years after the zombie apocalypse has started, and it's, like, really going into what the world looks like 4 years into living with the zombie apocalypse, and
Mhm.
there's, like, it's like a part heist movie, part survivor movie, part, like,
Oh,
badass underground fight
wow.
club like, I don't fully understand yet
I feel like
what it
just
is
based
because
on
you can.
that trailer that it does sound like it, like, leaned harder into the action and
Mhm,
less heart than, like, what the first film
yeah,
had.
and the trailer, I think, especially emphasizes that, and it's been a while since I watched the original Train to Busan trailer, but I remember it not leaning quite so heavily on the action
Mhm.
bits. But I wouldn't classify Train to Busan as not an action movie in that sense,
No, yeah.
because it is fast-paced and it does have absolutely terrifying scenes at time.
Oh my god, yeah, it's brutal. Fucking everyone dies, basically. And
Yep.
just to rave about it more, just the concept they came up with of the whole movie basically being on the train, I was like,
Mhm.
"This is good shit."
Mhm.
It's so fascinating that they're, like, battling their way through cars and, like, there's, like, occasional escapades in, like, train stations to try to get out, but that doesn't go well, and it's, like, back to the train.
Yep.
I just thought that was fascinating.
No, the premise I think is really fascinating, the idea of what you do when you're in a contained environment,
Yeah.
and that's just you're in a contained environment.
Yep.
Um,
Scary as
and
shit.
yeah, and especially because like and I didn't think about this as I was watching it originally, but the YouTube video I sent you
Mhm.
by the guy whose name I should remember but don't.
It's something gaming.
Um, okay. Um, but yeah, one of the things he talks about that just completely is that South Koreans don't really have guns.
Yeah.
And so it's not like in the US where like there's just fucking
There's
guns.
guns everywhere.
Like I guarantee you, like you would if you're on somewhere, there's gonna be a gun
Oh,
somewhere.
absolutely. Yeah.
Like unless you're on an airplane where they're not allowed. Like
But even then, there's like
they're
a
just
court martial, not court martial, air marshal. What are they called?
true. Yeah,
Something.
somebody's got a
Someone's
gun.
got a
Yeah.
gun usually. But I actually really liked that component because I found like the more melee style combat a lot more
Oh,
interesting to watch. Like I'm sick of
yeah.
people blowing everything up and shooting everything. Like it gets old.
And it's also to me, it was really interesting for a couple of reasons. The first is that it's a really good example of adrenaline and how it can make you, like, really push through, and then once it's over, you're exhausted.
Like the strong guy with the pregnant wife who just, like, picks the dude up and throws him and slams
Throws
him on the
him.
ceiling and, like, back on the floor. I'm like,
Oh
"Damn,
my
dude."
god.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and you can tell he's kind of a strong badass before that.
I mean, he's definitely a
Um,
beefy man for sure.
yeah, but it's just so interesting of, like, and then you have the quiet moments where they just seem exhausted, which is what adrenaline
Yeah.
does to you. It's not like a catch-all where you're just like you run, 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 and you're good. You have like adrenaline takes everything out of you.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, God, there's a burp stuck in my throat. That's fun.
are you good?
I'm good. Um, so talking about oh god, it's like in my throat. Talking about that guy, I wanted to talk about just like the characters in general because I feel like they have like for lack of a better word, a bunch of unique tropes that like get all of them get interestingly explored. Like there's not just like someone there to be there. They all of them have interesting traits and stories to be told
Yeah.
like within the movie.
And I feel like another interesting thing this YouTuber guy brought up is that like our main hero is not necessarily a good guy, and he doesn't get the whole action hero thing. Like, it
Yeah,
takes a while for him to like, he has some badass moments, but, like, he's not the badass of the movie.
right.
Um,
He doesn't even make it to
who
the
is
end.
no, he dies,
Yeah.
which is, so that's, Sukwu is the main guy.
Yeah. My problem was not so much trying to remember how to pronounce their names, it's remembering who was named what. Because
I wrote
they
it
had
down.
a lot of S names.
I wrote it down. So, Sukwu is the main guy,
Ooh, that sounds right.
and then, Sang Wee is the badass guy.
Okay. The only name I can remember is the daughter, Suan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Who's
then,
super cute.
Song Kyung is the pregnant wife
Yep.
who survives to the end of the movie and is a trooper. I gotta tell you,
Oh my god. Badass
Yusuk,
lady.
yeah, Yusuk is the evil classist guy who eventually turns into a zombie,
Piece of garbo.
and then you have the young guy and the young girl who um
They're like
is young,
star-crossed lovers, basically.
yeah, which is Yoongook and Jihee. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing it.
I don't
I'm
I
so
can't
sorry.
I can't
I'm
provide you
so
any
sorry.
guidance there.
Um, but we are, yeah, so those are their names.
Yep.
So, but I have to write them down, especially because like when you're listening to the Korean and you don't speak Korean,
Mhm.
the names mumble in with the actual text.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to pick out sounds of their names.
Yeah.
Um, so and yes, they are all basically S. It's 4
It's a
S's
lot of
and 3 Y's.
S's. Yeah. Which I don't know if
So
that's common for Korean names to begin with. If I'm not sure.
yeah.
Um, when you said that you brought up the CEO guy, the asshole, that made me think
Hmm.
of that, like him turning when he does turn into the zombie. That was another unique thing the movie did. Was like he had a moment where he like reverts back a little bit and like becomes self-aware that he's turning into a zombie and like looking at his own hands. I'm like, that's the scariest shit right there. It's like knowing that you're fucked. Oh my god.
And it's an interesting moment because I feel like the intention is to both humanize him and not humanize him at the same time.
Hmm.
So they're humanizing him as he's literally turning into a zombie. But at the same time, the movie doesn't forgive him.
Right.
There's no forgiveness because he wants his mommy at the end,
Right.
which I find to be very interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of like reminding you, like, I don't know where I was going with that statement. I'm retracting it. It's kind of
Okay.
like something. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Oh, do you remember the moment when they're like, I don't remember if they explicitly said what was happening, but they're like people are like dropping in from the sky and it becomes clear they picked random zones to just be areas where they were gonna dump zombies in and they were just gonna have to suck it up and all die.
That was the way I interpreted it.
Yeah.
Cody interpreted it as people on the helicopters were turning into zombies.
No, because I think they say something in the movie about moving to quarantine zones, and it definitely
Yes.
gives you the impression that
That
they like picked people out of the places they were gonna save and dumped them somewhere else, and they were like, "They're on their own."
That was the impression I got as well,
Yeah.
is that it's because you had the big whole voiceover, like, "There's nothing to worry about, don't stress, this is just riots,"
Yeah.
which is fascinating as people get eaten on live television. "It's riots, don't worry about it."
Also, that hit a little too close to home too, like, reliving that part and being like, "Oh,
Mhm.
everything's fine. We're just
Everything's good.
descending into a pandemic. It's all good."
So, yeah, I find that to be very interesting as well, which I know I've said 80 million times. This movie is just, critically interesting to
It
me.
gives you a lot to think about, especially
Yeah.
because, like, when you see it happening and you're like, "Oh my god, that totally could happen in a zombie apocalypse," and then you're like, "Is my zone getting saved? Is my zone getting zombies dropped on it?" And I'm terrified.
Yeah. It's a bit like World War Z in that way, where the intention is to make you think,
Yeah. World
and
War
the
Z, the
intention is
book.
yes, World War Z, the book, sorry, which we have an episode about,
Yeah.
and you should listen to it. But World War I feel like it's very much intellectualizing the zombie the similar way to the World War Z is, but, like, actioning it as well.
Mhm.
So it's definitely an action movie, at the same time, they're intellectualizing zombies and what it would actually look like.
Right, yeah, for
Like, one
sure.
of my favorite moments is when all the people in the train car, the survivors, are protecting the door against the people who aren't actually zombies,
Oh my god.
and then get eaten by the zombies because they didn't clearly pay attention to that
Because the
door,
freaking old lady is like, "I hate all of you."
and
You're
just so it's just I it's one of my favorite moments, and I feel like it's, like, terrible and tragic and also hilarious and also
like, you
accurate.
kinda like you're like, "Oh, that's so sad," but also at the same time, you're like, "Yeah, they deserve that."
So,
Yep,
I keep saying so. It's our catchphrase, you guys.
it
There's
is.
It's just the way that I talk. I just finish every sentence with "so." There it
I'm
is!
so
She got the
sorry.
breath out,
I'm
ladies and
so
gentlemen.
sorry.
She got it out.
It couldn't not. It couldn't not. Oh my gosh. Um, I was also thinking, having going over this, that I feel like since World War Z and Train to Busan, I'm not counting Zombieland Double Tap because that was hot garbage. We haven't actually seen zombie media in a while, I don't think. Like, we haven't seen like a zombie blockbuster come up in a little while.
I mean, I'm sure they exist, like, Peninsula exists, and that was
Right,
2020.
yeah, but like nothing is like taking the world by storm, and I was just wondering if like I wonder if people are over the zombie craze, or like maybe it just got too real.
I mean, there was Double Tap. Double Tap
I don't want to count that one. It was just
I know,
bad.
but it did exist, and it was a blockbuster.
It was? That saddens me.
I mean, let me okay, I know that we're not in a Zombieland episode, people, but now I have to
We
look up
can't. We're still enraged.
yes. I'm gonna look up what the numbers were for
Yeah,
and I'm
because
sorry if you
that's
can hear my typing in the background. Okay. So, the budget Zombieland 2's budget was, 48 million.
wow.
Its opening weekend made 26, and worldwide it made 122. Domestically, it made 73 million total, and it
That's
made
not great.
122. So it's not amazing, but it still made
It made
122 million.
money, yeah.
So, you
Well,
know.
besides that one, I
I
haven't seen
I feel
anything.
like
Like no
and
new
this is
concepts. Sorry, go ahead.
well, this is another thing, it's very interesting. I hate to bring up Lindsay Ellis again, it's a second time in this video, but she's very fascinated in how media changed after 9/11,
Yeah,
and how, disaster movies specifically changed, and I'm wondering if similar to 9/11 and this is not quite on your question, but after the COVID pandemic, if we're gonna lose our taste temporarily for these kind of movies.
that is yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I feel like that's gonna definitely change the way we take in media, because I feel like we've had some things crop up over the year that like there was like a pandemic movie and everyone was like, I am sure as fuck not watching that. Or
Yeah.
like people started
There
watching
are some people
Contagion
who
and they were like, don't
yeah.
watch this.
There are people, though, who could not stop watching Contagion. It was, like, one of the most popular movies
Yeah,
when the
it's
on
a
Netflix when it
that itself,
started.
it is a good movie. I saw it when it came out in theaters, and I remember being like, wow, this shit's crazy. Hope that never happens.
Yeah, but I feel like just in general, we go through trends,
Yeah.
and like um movies, and I'm wondering if we've I think that there's definitely I think that you're right that I think there's a lull just because I think that there was like an explosion of that kind of films
Mhm.
and it's kind of died down, but then it's hard to tell because 2020 nothing got released really.
Yeah, it was a very weird year.
But it would be interesting to see what's going to happen to our movies post COVID of like what we're willing as an audience to tolerate
Mhm.
and what filmmakers are interested in.
Yeah, I think that'll be fascinating.
So,
Could change the nature of the zombie movie just based on like how we really did handle things. I don't
yeah.
know. It'll be very I don't know. And then this year they keep saying like, "Oh, this is getting released, blah blah blah," and I'm like,
No, it's
I
not.
know it's not. Stop
No,
lying.
it's
This
not.
is not. You're just stop pretending. Push your release dates out to December 1st, 2021, and then then I'll believe you.
Ex- Except for WB, which is just moving all of its movies to streaming and you can go fuck yourself,
Yeah.
which was a heavy duty decision that did not go well with a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
What
All the
is
theaters, all
yeah.
the people who the production companies who
Wasn't
are making
AMC
movies with
like
WB.
crazy pissed?
AMC was rip shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Did not go over well.
I mean, it's not to sorry to derail, but I feel like this is relevant to the state of films right now. But it, I feel like it was bound to happen anyways. Like our world is changing a lot in terms of like the way we consume things in a digital way, and I feel like it's just like it was just bound to happen. So like, might as well try to jump on the train while you still can, and maybe come up with ways to have like movie premieres at home, that kind of thing.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I don't think that was the direction we were heading because especially
Really?
because like no, I think that movie theaters it's going to be a problem when all the movie theaters close because they can't afford to open and they all go bankrupt because there are tons and tons and tons of people
Hmm.
who I mean if you think about like Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel and the records it broke and it smashed like Avengers Endgame and granted these are big blockbuster movies
Yeah.
but still they make millions and millions and millions opening weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, speaking personally, I am always there night of. Cody and I, like, my husband and I, like, the number one thing we used to do together is go to the movies. Like, there's still the magic of seeing things on the big screen. There's still movie theater popcorn to consider. Like,
I just think in a numbers situation, I think the trend was I think theaters already weren't doing super well. Like I remember going to theaters a lot when I was a kid, and it was just like packed crowds no matter what was out, even if it wasn't like a big blockbuster or had been out for weeks and weeks. And now, like I don't know how many times I've gone to a movie theater and it's like empty unless there's like a Marvel movie coming out.
when do you go to the movies, though?
Well,
Like, do you
let me
go,
think way back to when we were
like,
allowed to do things.
do you go early on or do you go later on when there's less crowds?
A mix of both. I've definitely done both, and it seems
Okay.
similar.
'Cause I just I feel like movie theaters never would have died completely. I do feel like streaming was hitting them, and I don't feel like we should ignore streaming, but I don't think that movie theaters were just dying.
Yeah.
That's my I don't we're so off Train to Busan now. I don't know how we got here. This is
We've
what we
gone
do.
down
We're
a
very, very sorry.
yeah, down a rabbit hole of the state of theaters. I mean, I
Um,
actually I wasn't a really big movie goer, and now I'm like I would kill someone to go fucking see a movie.
yeah. I was a huge movie goer.
Yeah.
That was what we did. We would go to the movies like 2 to 3 times a month.
Holy hell.
Um,
That's a lot of
so
movies.
and that's I know, you know, yeah, well, that was what we did and what we enjoyed,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of people like that, especially people who make their livings off films.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, so,
What
but
a
yeah,
bummer.
any you have seem to have a list. Anything left on that list for
Because
Train to
I took
Busan?
notes for once. I was so proud of myself. I was
And I
like,
I did the numbers for
we're
once
gonna
and
yeah.
actually did the
We were
facts.
so prepared,
So,
guys.
you guys, we haven't been like this in a little bit.
Yeah. On top of our shit, which is hilarious because otherwise I'm like, I'm just gonna go crumble on the floor at the end of this episode. My
But
only parting thoughts are I looked up the movie poster and it was really freaking cool and I liked it a lot.
okay.
It is an interesting. I mean, it's like no different than other action movie posters, but something about it is just like very well done. So
You are the graphic design person, so I can see how that would be a
that's
thing
fair.
for you.
It's a good one. But yeah,
I think my final thoughts are really just that it's worth watching as an action movie, it's worth watching as an examination of class, it's worth watching as an examination of relationships between people and humanity, and
yeah,
it's worth your time on a million different levels. Like, even if you don't traditionally watch zombie movies or action movies, would encourage you to still give it a watch
for sure. It's definitely
because it's
accessible to I feel like to a lot of people.
yeah, but it's got the depth there too.
Yeah,
Like, you could really analyze this movie, and it's like messages about class and people. So
it's just a good well a good time, I guess. Just watching that guy's
it's
video
not
again
a good
was
time.
like I was like getting teary again, like reliving
Yeah,
everything, and I was like, this movie, so good,
no,
so sad.
it's it's a very depressing movie.
Yeah,
Everybody dies,
yeah,
but it's still worth your time.
for sure.
And we apologize for spoiling the entire thing if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah, but it's been 5 years, so like figure it out.
This is true.
Yes,
That too.
and we didn't spoil the sequel or the prequel because we haven't seen it yet.
It's correct.
So
Which, but
there's
I'm
that.
definitely going to.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to. That's on my list now.
that's next for sure. And next week we're gonna probably go back to ranting and raving out of anger because we're doing Pride and Prejudice and zombies.
Guys, I'm so fucking angry
Oh God.
about that shit. You have no idea.
So that'll be fun. That'll be a great way to sign off on January.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Tune in for that hellscape.
Woo!
And then we're going to switch to February's going to be romantic movies and books. We don't know a final like laydown of what it's going to look like, but um the romance is going to be the trend of
Yes.
February.
We'll celebrate Valentine's Day in style.
Yep.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Excellente. All right. Well, we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.